Meanwhile, thousands of Afghan nationals are searching for a way out of the country. Last month, the White House announced Operation Allies Refuge to support those who face threats from the Taliban for helping the U.S. during the 20-year war. But the quick unraveling of the situation on the ground has left people scrambling, and organizations here in the U.S. are gathering resources to assist. So let's bring in the president and CEO of the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, Kris O'Mara Vignarajah. Kris, the Biden administration announced yesterday $500 million in aid. So how do you respond to the current effort from the U.S. government? What more do you believe could be done for refugees?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where it's important to stress that it is not too late to get the tens of thousands of Afghan allies and other vulnerable Afghans out of the country. But we have to recognize that this is going to be a Herculean effort. Right now, we have about 80,000 SIVs and their family members who are still stuck in Afghanistan, about half in Kabul, half all across the country, obviously under Taliban control right now. And so this is where every day of inaction in the last several months has meant that it is exponentially more difficult for us to get these folks who served alongside our U.S. military in our U.S. mission to safety here in the U.S.
And you say that the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service has been sounding the alarm on the program for years. Do you believe that focus on Operation Allies Refuge began too late?
Yeah, it was too little too late. But again, as I said, it's not too late for us to save these individuals from what can be a terrible plight in the hands of the Taliban, knowing that, they have been targeted for retribution for working alongside the U.S. But, when we were raising this, screaming from the rooftops months ago, the response was, well, let's try to expedite the visa processing. That process legally was supposed to take no longer than 9 months. On average, it was taking about 3 years. And so to hear yesterday the claim that Afghan allies wanted to remain in essentially a war zone is just inconsistent with all of our conversations and truthfully reality.
And currently, the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service does not have resources on the ground in Afghanistan, but has asked to deploy resources to Fort Lee for Operation Allies Refuge. Can you tell us more about this effort?
Yeah, so I was actually at Fort Lee week before, meeting with the initial cohort of SIVs who have arrived in the U.S. So we have relocated about 2,000 SIVs working with the State Department. And so these are individuals, families who came through Fort Lee. For some of them, they needed to complete their medical examination, which was done on the base. And then nearly all of them have actually gone to their final destination. There's a significant portion in Texas, California, and the D.C. metro area. And so many of them are already starting to integrate into their new homes.
And you ran for governor of Maryland in 2018. The current governor, Larry Hogan, announced the state's commitment to receiving interpreters. Is that because this organization, your organization, reached out to him?
Well, we've been pretty vocal about how important it is to meet our moral and military obligations, that this is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do, because any 21st century war that the U.S. is going to fight is going to require local allies. We made a pledge to these interpreters, drivers, security guards, that we would not leave them behind. And so, we have advocated to governors, to the administration, that this is a responsibility, that there is bipartisan consensus around. So though I may have my differences with Governor Hogan, we were heartened by his commitment and being so vocal in terms of meeting that responsibility and that pledge that we made.
Kris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.